Talk to Fluency from beginner to fluent.
Take your English skills to the next level.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating exploration, really getting into a topic many of you are deeply passionate about, achieving true fluency in English, and, what it really takes to get there, maybe even get there fast.
Yeah, we're going to dive into some pretty radical concepts today, things around time commitment, motivation, and efficient practice. This isn't your typical language learning advice, not at all. This deep dive, it's really designed to challenge some, let's say, deeply ingrained assumptions you might have, and hopefully completely reframe your whole approach to getting fluent.
Right. Our mission today is basically to arm you with a clear, actionable framework, something you can use to dramatically accelerate your English fluency. We've uncovered some incredibly eye-opening insights, honestly. So what does this all actually mean for you, the learner, who's, navigating this whole journey? Let's peel back the layers on this.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a claim that might just make you do a double take. The material we've looked at makes this really bold assertion right from the get-go. To become truly fluent, you need to be dedicating far more time to practice daily than most people even imagine. We're talking 10 to 14 hours a day. Now, before you throw your headphones across the room, this isn't about making you feel guilty. It's more about a provocative reality check,
It truly is. And what's so compelling here, I think, is the comparison it draws to native speakers. Think about a 5-year-old kid who speaks English natively. They're already clear, they're confident, fluent in how they talk. Now, this isn't because they're super intelligent or have some secret trick. No, it's achieved through sheer continuous all-encompassing immersion. Over those 5 years, they are quite literally living and breathing English every single waking moment. So this really begs a fundamental question for us as learners. Are we maybe drastically underestimating the true time cost involved? The time needed to reach that same level of clear, confident, almost native-like fluency.
That's a staggering comparison when you actually stop and think about it.
Wow.
And here's where it gets even more interesting, this radical idea, that if you genuinely commit to 14 hours a day and it has to be the right kind of practice, you could potentially become fluent in as little as 6 months. That just sounds, sounds unbelievable.
It does, doesn't it? But it really challenges our perception of what's actually possible. And this time frame, it contrasts incredibly sharply with what many people find when they search online. That common Google result saying 2 to 3 years, even with dedicated study. The implication here is pretty profound. Typical learners just aren't putting in nearly enough focused time to see those kinds of rapid transformative results. So if you've been studying English for years and you feel stuck, or you're just not seeing the big progress you want, well, the insights we're looking at suggest it's highly likely down to insufficient practice time. The material suggests many learners might spend as little as 3 hours per week, which is almost nothing in this context. Even those considered above average might only manage an hour or 2 per day. And while that will lead to some improvement eventually, sure, reaching real clarity and confidence at that pace could realistically take 9 years, maybe even more, simply because the sheer volume of exposure and active engagement just isn't there.
Okay, so if that's the benchmark for rapid fluency, the immediate question on everyone's mind must be, how on earth do you even begin to find 10 to 14 hours every single day? Or even, let's say, a more modest but still huge 5 hours just for English. This feels like it requires some kind of superhuman level of dedication.
You're right. It's a massive commitment. And the answer, according to these insights, isn't really about magically finding more time in your day. It's more about cultivating this unshakable motivation.
Yeah.
But not just any motivation, though. This is where a lot of language learners, myself included, way back, often stumble.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the material argues that common goals, like passing IELTS, that's the International English Language Testing System, or maybe passing TOEFL, the test of English as a foreign language, those kinds of goals are often just, too weak. They lack the real emotional pull, that deep-seated why that you absolutely need to sustain the kind of immense, consistent effort we're talking about. So for you, the listener, it makes you ask, what's your much bigger goal? What's that driving force that will genuinely ignite your desire to learn and push you through those inevitable tough days?
Exactly. It means moving beyond those typical exam results as the main thing. Instead, the advice points us towards setting massive, life-changing objectives, things that really resonate deeply with your core aspirations. We're talking truly ambitious, almost audacious goals, like envisioning yourself starting a global business where English is your primary tool, your key to communication, or speaking confidently on an international stage to diverse audiences, launching your own YouTube channel to connect with a worldwide community, maybe traveling the world as a true global citizen, or achieving financial freedom for your family through global opportunities. These are goals that go way beyond just getting a test score. They're about actually transforming your life.
That makes so much sense. It really shifts the focus from just, passing a test to living a dream.
The core idea here seems to be that a monumental, deeply personal goal makes the massive effort needed for fluency seem, well, not just manageable, but genuinely easy, almost exciting.
Yeah, manageable is a good word.
The material gives a great analogy. If you set a goal to make, say, $10,000 per month, then a goal that seemed big before, like making $1,000 a month, suddenly feels much more achievable, right?
Exactly.
It's about opening doors to global income streams, getting remote jobs with international companies, building your personal brand on an international scale. That kind of potential, that huge why, is what can genuinely drive the necessary sacrifice.
It really is. And a very practical step suggested is simply to write this massive goal down. Put it somewhere super visible, like on your wall, maybe your computer desktop background. Even stick it on your bathroom mirror, just somewhere you'll see it every single day to remind yourself why you're putting in this intense work. It's about constantly reinforcing that powerful why. Okay, so beyond just finding that deep motivation, the material stresses a really crucial, almost ruthless step. Eliminating anything that doesn't directly contribute to your main goal. It's about not spreading yourself too thin, focusing your energy like a laser beam.
Yeah, this point really hit home for me because it's something I've definitely experienced personally. The material shares some anecdotes, like trying to learn multiple languages, Spanish, French, Chinese, all at the same time, or managing multiple YouTube channels at once. And the consistent result, learning, well, basically nothing, effectively. It highlights this critical danger we often fall into. Diluting our efforts across too many things, even if they all seem worthwhile on their own. You just end up making tiny bits of progress everywhere, but no real depth anywhere. Your focus gets fragmented.
And this ruthless elimination, it also extends to how you consume English content. This really challenges a lot of common advice you see online. The material specifically calls out things like watching short videos about 5 new words, or breaking down common mistakes, or focusing heavily on grammar rules in your native language. It argues that this stuff is basically wasted time, especially if you're past the absolute beginner stage. It suggests this kind of content can actually foster fear and overthinking before you even try to speak. It makes you hesitant, slower.
That's such a critical distinction. What's really insightful here is the clear line it draws between learning about English and learning in English, which crucially means actually speaking it. So, for instance, knowing the history of a word, or every little nuance of accent differences, or detailed facts about English linguistics, that's all learning about English. But the material makes it crystal clear. Knowing about English, no matter how much detail, doesn't automatically translate into the practical ability to speak English clearly, confidently, naturally. If your massive goal is to speak, then your activities need to be centered on being a speaker, not just, a linguist or someone who collects facts about the language.
Okay, right. So if we're cutting out the non-essentials and really focusing on the right stuff, what does that right stuff actually look like in practice, day to day?
The material gives a very specific and thankfully really actionable balance for this. Yeah, it calls this framework the growth cycle. And it's called a cycle because each part feeds into the next, creating this continuous loop of improvement. It has 3 crucial elements: active consumption, active speaking, and getting feedback. And it recommends a very specific split for your dedicated practice time. 60% active consumption, 30% active speaking, and 10% getting feedback. This breakdown ensures a balanced, holistic approach. It covers all the necessary bases for real, accelerating improvement.
Let's break that down a bit, because it's not just passive watching or listening, is it? Active consumption means really engaging with the material you're taking in. So think beyond just like listening to a podcast in the background. It means taking notes while watching videos, highlighting keywords or phrases when you read an article or book, or actively writing comments on English YouTube videos or social media posts, practicing your written English, really interacting.
Exactly. And active speaking means actually talking, using the language you've consumed. This could be talking about the content you just watched or read, maybe practicing with a language exchange partner in daily chats, or even just narrating your day's activities aloud to yourself in English, just to build that muscle memory, get used to forming the sentences.
And the feedback part, that 10%, you're saying that's absolutely vital.
Oh, absolutely vital. It's not optional if you want fast progress. It's where the real growth happens. It's about learning from a trusted source, maybe a professional coach, or even by carefully recording yourself and then listening back, analyzing your own speech, so you can spot your errors and figure out how to speak better next time. This raises an important question for you, the listener. Are you actively seeking out constructive feedback on your English? Or are you mostly just practicing in isolation, kind of hoping for the best, without a clear way to know what needs fixing? Because without feedback, it's really hard to know what to improve. You're just guessing.
Right. And a key point here that really stuck with me is when to analyze mistakes. The advice is analyze them after you've spoken, not before. The material strongly states that overthinking and overanalyzing before you even open your mouth just leads to fear and inaction, paralysis, basically.
Yeah, performance anxiety.
You get paralyzed by wanting it to be perfect, which ironically just slows everything down. The advice is just speak. Get your thoughts out, make the mistakes, then review them. It'll save you a ton of time in the long run. Okay, and finally, the advice offers this really powerful, almost extreme piece of wisdom. Give yourself no choice but to become fluent. This feels like the ultimate commitment level.
It is, really. It means strategically, consciously creating an environment where learning and using English becomes your undeniable primary focus, almost to the exclusion of other non-essential activities in your life. It's about engineering a full immersion experience within your own daily life, not just, for a few hours in a classroom each week. It's about being surrounded by English in every possible way you can manage, making it your constant reality.
So the idea is to integrate English so deeply into your daily routine that you genuinely feel like you have nothing else to do but to become fluent. And the material does acknowledge the practical side. Look, you probably have a job, family commitments, other responsibilities. We get that.
Of course.
But it says English fluency doesn't care about this.
Yep.
It sounds harsh, but
Yeah, it's blunt.
it's about how you prioritize, how creative and resourceful you can be in finding more and more ways to spend time actively engaged in English every single day. It's about shifting your default settings, your default activities.
This really pushes us to consider, how can you, in your own unique life circumstances, start to engineer a situation where dedicating significant, consistent time to English becomes truly non-negotiable? What sacrifices, maybe small, maybe big, can you make? What fundamental shifts can you implement in your daily habits to truly make English your central focus and propel your fluency forward at a much faster pace?
Wow. What an incredible deep dive. Seriously thought-provoking stuff. We've covered some truly transformative ideas today. From committing serious, almost radical amounts of time to setting those massive, motivating goals that go way beyond just passing a language exam. We've also dug into ruthlessly eliminating distractions, anything that doesn't serve your core purpose, and adopting that very specific, balanced practice routine, that 6 of 30-10 split for maximum efficiency. The central theme that seems to emerge from all these insights is crystal clear, deliberate, intense effort, combined with a really strong, compelling why. That truly is the shortcut to fluency.
Yeah, and the idea that you could genuinely transform your English in as little as 6 months. I mean, by putting in maybe 14 hours a day and consistently following this kind of balanced approach, it's certainly provocative. It really challenges us to fundamentally reconsider what we've always assumed was possible in language learning, and maybe more importantly, what we're truly willing to sacrifice and prioritize for our biggest, most important life goals.
Absolutely. So for you, the listener, maybe just think about this. What's one small thing you could eliminate from your current routine starting today? Or perhaps what's one massive, life-changing goal you can define for yourself right now? Something that will fundamentally push your English fluency journey forward. Think about how you can start, even in small ways, to create an environment where you truly feel like you have no choice but to succeed. See you later and Talk to Fluency YouTube channel. Subscribe for more. Bye.
Talk to Fluency from beginner to fluent.
Take your English skills to the next level.